Hi, everyone. I'm Karen MacNeil, and this is winespeed.com's People to Know, insider interviews with the most fascinating and important people in the wine business. And today we're talking with Kevin Zraly, my old friend and a teacher and writer undoubtedly known to everyone who loves wine in the United States. Kevin is best known as the wine director for Windows on the World restaurant and the creator of the Windows on the World Wine School, which he founded in 1976 at the age of 25. It was, of course, on the top floors of the former One World Trade Center in New York. After the restaurant was destroyed in the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attack, Zraly continued the wine school for another 15 years at the Marriot Marquis in Manhattan. He's educated more than 20,000 wine lovers over the course of 40 years. Kevin himself graduated with a bachelor's degree in education from the State University of New York at New Paltz. He's the author of 7 books and a memoir, A Glass Half Full, a Cellarmaster's Journey Through Wine and Life. And lastly, among his many awards, a very prestigious one is the James Beard Lifetime Achievement Award, which he got in 2011. Kevin, hi, my friend. There you are, out in some beautiful pastoral setting in upstate New York, right?
I just got out of the pool for you. You know, somebody says I'm very unprofessional, but you know what? I don't know what it's like in Napa right now, but it's 90 degrees here with no clouds. And I got this beautiful pool. The background you can see. Anyhow, thanks for having me. I do want to say one thing, though.
The hard life of a working professional, I can see.
I think that's not happening anymore. I think that I'm not working anymore, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure. I wanted that James Beard Award. It was we did not. People said, "Oh, you must petition for those kinds of things." I thought they were calling me in to be a sommelier because I had done the earlier year the sommelier for the VIP thing, and I said, "I'll get to them. I'll get to them." Finally, Steve Olson calls me and said, "Why haven't you?" He's a friend of ours. "Why haven't you called back to James Beard?" I said, "I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it." He said, "No, they want to give you the Lifetime Achievement Award." What I like about it, because we're in the wine world, there's only 3 wine people that have ever gotten it, and the first was Robert Mondavi, and then Ernest Gallo. And there's never been a wine person since. I don't know if you know this, but you know, I'm the youngest person to get it as well. So I get up on the stage and I'm feeling it. I do. Jacques Pepin gives me the award, but before he does that, I do 10 push-ups in front of 3,000 people at Lincoln Center, black tie. You know, I'm still around, and here we are. I'm still around. I don't know.
Well, wait a minute. I think you should do push-ups right now. I mean, it's
Actually,
not the James Beard Award, but people, it's pretty important.
I am in such great shape. I am in the best shape of my life. So if there's there's no silver lining around this virus, but I ride my bike 10 miles, at least 10 miles a day. My weight regimen, my eating habits, I've lost 10 pounds, swimming in the pool. Come on, life can't be better than this.
All right. Well, let me ask you a couple of questions here. First of all, I'm curious. I don't think we've known each other for, I don't know, 40 years or some really long time. But I don't think I know how old you were when you tasted your first wine and who gave it to you.
Oh, I definitely know that. And they're in my dedication to my book. I'll send you a copy.
Maybe I can learn something.
I heard you wrote a couple of books too. I don't know. I see him somewhere. I was working in a restaurant not far from where I am right now in a small little town, literally 400 people. And it was called the Dupuis Canal House Tavern. And this guy had just opened it. He was like 27. I was 19 years old. I got a job there as a waiter. One day, Craig Claiborne, who was then the first restaurant critic for the New York Times, came with an entourage. So it was Craig Claiborne, Pierre Fronet, who's no longer with it, the chef, famous chef, and Jacques Pepin, the chef who's still with us. They came to the restaurant and they gave the place a 4-star rating. And I said, who are these people? Why are they here? I'm 19 years old, Irish, steak, potato, beer guy. Anyhow, I realized that there was 20, we had 20 reservations on Saturday nights. We went from 20 to 120. And I remember somebody coming and said, "You got a great place here." It was a 1797 stone building. You have a great place, and the service is great because we didn't know any better. John Novi, who I credit long before, don't get me wrong, I think Alice Waters deserves everything, but before 3 years before Alice Waters was doing what she was doing, farm to table. This guy John Novi was. What am I getting to? Everything was good except the wine list. I quickly became a waiter to bartender, and I said, "Yeah, we got the top 3 wines. We got red, white, and rosé. What more do we need?" And then we had some New Yorkers come up, and they got really pissed off about that. "We got everything, but you don't have a good wine list." "Who does the wine list?" "Kevin does the wine list." Kevin had to go to the table. I didn't understand what they were talking about. Somebody gave me a 50-cent paperback on wine, and that's how I started. And then this one guy, his name is Peter Beanstalk. And Peter Beanstalk one day brought in a bottle of 1945 Romani Conti and handed me a glass. This is what would it be then? 1970. Hands me a glass of this, and my life changed. So I went directly from Budweiser to Burgundy, and haven't stopped.
And to Romani Conti, no less. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it was from a special auction wine. We don't even go into that. But you've had those experiences, and again, I was 19 years old, and what's going on here? This guy's right. And I took that wine list from, like, we had the red, white, and rosé to 125 wines, and then got the job at Windows 6 years later. So
wow,
they were just magical. That's the word. This restaurant was magical. This chef, John Novi, was magical. Time magazine actually called him the father of the modern American cooking. You don't know about him because he was a hippie, and he didn't care about that. Then I go to work with Joe Baum. By the way, I worked with James Beard. James Beard was a consultant at Windows in the World when I got there, and so was Jacques Pepin. I'm working with all these people. I just turned 25 years old, and I'm put in charge of the whole wine program. And so magical is my life when it comes to wine and food. Very lucky.
Yeah, but it also shows how nascent the American wine industry was at that point. Even the greatest restaurateurs and chefs knew very little about wine themselves. There were no sommeliers around. They turned to you, essentially a kid who knew nothing, and said, "Here, you figure it out." I mean, that wouldn't happen today, I don't think. Do you?
No, I find it fascinating because I was at Union Square Cafe when it was opened. So that was how many months ago? 5 months ago. And at lunch, they had 5 sommeliers. 5 sommeliers. First of all, I think, and I'm not sure about this, but I think I was the first American sommelier. So I was 20 years old, or even the youngest sommelier ever. And then when I got to New York and I got to Windows in the World, I said to Joe Baum, the guy who created it, I said, "How many sommeliers?" He said, "First of all, we're not using that word. We're using Cellarmaster. Sommelier is a French word. We're not doing that. You are a Cellarmaster of this." And I said, "Okay, well, how many Cellarmasters can I have on the floor?" He said, "None. You're it. I hired you. Take care of it." And then I started training all the captains. And as you know, hundreds of people that worked at Windows in the World went through that whole wine program and now work in the business.
Well, how did you decide? It's one thing to build a cellar. You're given some money. In your case, I think you were given quite a bit of money. You figure it out, and you sit down and you build a cellar. It's quite another thing, though, to decide to teach. Teaching is presenting, is acting. How did you decide to teach wine?
Well, I was sort of organically. It was the same thing when I worked at the Dupuy Canal House Tavern. So you go from red, white, and rosé, and now you got something called Nuit Saint-Georges. And by the way, it's primarily French. But I did have the largest New York State wine list at that time. This is the early 70s right now. So with Herman Weimer and Dr. Frank and Ben Marl, these are still wineries that exist. And I had this whole list, and American wines, meaning California. Louis Martini Cabernet Sauvignon, Charles Krug, Mondavi. I'm trying to think of the ones that I even visited on my first trip, but nobody bought them. They all bought French wines, including when I went to Windows on the World. So my waitstaff would say, tell me about this wine so I can sell it. And then when I got to Windows on the World, and we were a small staff in those days. We had 10 people, and a lot of people know this. You work in the restaurant, you become family. And there's still to this day my family, of all those people I worked with when I was in my teens and 20s. How do you go about it? I don't exactly, nobody's ever asked me that question. I just sort of did it, and had a great time doing it. Can I put another ice cube in a glass of red wine? Is that all right with you?
I don't. Ice cube in
it's French
red
wine, by the way, just so.
Okay, well, as long as it's a French red, yeah,
I feel like I'm country France.
Yeah. Well, to follow along that line about teaching, I mean, you don't just teach wine. You are known for having the most extraordinary teaching style of anyone in the country, including myself. Many of us sort of sat at your knee watching you enthrall audiences. And I personally have seen you captivate 600 people in a room, have them laughing and talking and tasting and learning all at the same time. Like, what's the secret, do you think, to being a great teacher?
Okay, I do have an answer for that. My degree is elementary education. I'm certified to teach nursery through 6th grade in New York State.
And wine, nursery school and wine. It's a perfect combo.
4th grade, a student teach. I never actually did teach. I knew I was going in the wine business from the time I was 19, but my parents said I had to get a college degree because I was the first male in the family, so I did it. But I knew I was going in the wine business. But, keep it simple. When you're talking to a 2nd grader or a 4th grader or a 6th grader, what did Albert Einstein say? If you can't say something, you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not trying to dumb it down, but I'm going to call it the Socratic method. And I also wanted to be a lawyer. So Socratic, lawyer, you don't tell them what's going on. You let the student make the decision. And I want to say this because it's important. There was very few people that I would ever allow in my classroom when we had it in New York, and you were the one. When I couldn't make a class, I would say, Karen, can you do this for me? And so thank you for doing that in those early days, those good times.
Well, it was wonderful. It was terrifying for me. For those of you who are watching, you can imagine being the substitute teacher for Kevin Zraly. It was definitely terrifying. Now, over the years, I've heard you talk about Woodstock and other sort of culture-defining concerts and moments, and hitchhiking across the country to visit wineries in California. And would you today describe yourself as what was called a hippie back then?
Absolutely, but I think the better word is bohemian. My father's side comes from Prague. So the Czech Republic, however you want to look at it, Czechoslovakia at one time. My grandfather was the kind of guy that he had the first car in the neighborhood. He had the first TV in the neighborhood. He'd say, come on in, let's watch TV. So the whole neighborhood would be coming in with the car. I take the car for a ride. Ted, that's my grandfather. So I lived that. So the 60s for me was perfect because I did go to Woodstock in 1969, and I actually went to the 50th anniversary of Woodstock last year and let my hair go. My hair was as long as yours right now. And a lot of people are happy that it's not anymore. Just so you know, my Jacqueline does not like to see my hair very long. So this is getting better. It's a little wet right now, but I'm going to. So yeah, did I pick up on the Woodstock generation? That's what I would call it. Hippie, if that's the word, but Woodstock generation of love, of peace, of giving. And that's something that we say in the restaurant business and the wine business. We are givers. We're not takers. And I think it just fits perfectly with my personality.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Windows on the World in those early days. It was a remarkable, and the term you use, magical kind of place, both it and the Dupuis Canal House. And you worked there for 25 years. It was just tremendously exciting, I think. And of course, then you had the burgeoning of the whole culture of wine in America. Is the wine industry a different place now?
In some ways, it's better. When I started, I would tell people, don't go to a retailer and ask them any questions about wine. And I would take that all the way to 1980, maybe even past 1980, because the retailers, it wasn't wine stores, there were liquor stores. They're still called liquor stores. And I'm very fortunate also to work with another magical operation called Sherry Lehman. And I've been working with them since I was 19. I would walk into the store that they had on Madison Avenue, and I'd look at the wines that I couldn't buy, but I learned from the labels. And now I do master classes and advanced classes and things like that. So when I started, actually, I was explaining that today. So by the time I'm 24 years old, I've been to every major wine region on earth. By the way, no Silver Spring. Okay, I even paid my way through college. Not my parents gave me, they love my parents, but they said, you do it on your own. So I thought they would be waiting for me to come into the retail store to help them out with their wine selection. They could care less. What discount do you have today? And what can you give me on 5 cases? What can you give me on 10 cases? That's changed. That's why specialty stores like Sherry Lehman, I can mention another 50 around the country, that people who own those stores have a passion for wine. So that's one area. The restaurants, are you kidding me? I remember, I created the New York Wine Experience. I brought the Wine Spectator into this whole thing. And restaurant awards, I mean, it's coming up to the 40th year now for the restaurant award, the Grand Awards. They were first held, by the way, the first New York Wine Experience and the first Grand Award list were held at Windows on the World. So, my God, that has changed. And the sommeliers today, I'm not a master sommelier because it didn't exist when I started. It did in the UK. The Masters of Wine didn't exist in the United States. If you wanted to go to the UK, and who had the time and money to do that. And look at how many master sommeliers there are. Master of American, I'm talking about now. So we're actually, in a way, the leaders of the wine movement in the world. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So, that does bring up an interesting point when you talked about you don't have an MS or an MW. How do you define yourself? Because you're not exactly a typical sommelier. You are an author, but then you're a teacher. I mean, when you're at a dinner party and someone doesn't know who you are, who do you say? And they say, what do you do? What do you say?
I tell them to go to Google.
I'm going to remember that.
Just go. That's what I tell my kids. Why are you asking me a question? I didn't have that when I was growing up, and you didn't have that. The answer is there. I'm probably on Google, 75 or Google or whatever, Yahoo, whatever, 75 times a day looking up things. And we didn't have that kind of access. What am I? First of all, I'm a father of 4. That's really important to me. And you met some of my children, and I don't remember their names. But one is born in 1991, another's 93, another's 97, and another's 99. So they were all, that was a big decade for me.
Yeah, you must have drunk a lot of wine that decade.
Well, I put wine away for them, just so you know. So they all have wine in the cellar from their vintages. And on their birthday, I drink them without them. I drink them throughout the year without them. I'm only kidding. I do drink it without them, but I also drink it with them. So I think there's much more to life about wine. Theater, arts, and music is my number one thing in life. I'm a musician, and my famous band, the Winettes.
I remember.
And we were going strong until people started paying us not to play. And Michael Skurnick, some people know Michael Skurnick Imports. He was our lead guitar. Joey DeLisio, who's been running the River Cafe as the wine director for 40 years. He was our drummer. We've had a master's in music. Josh Wesson, who you know as well. So we had all of these wine people. Brian Miller actually played with us. He was the restaurant critic for the New York Times. We would go to 8th Avenue to this dive and practice, and it smelled like beer. Everything smelled like beer, the microphones. And then we go out and have beers, and then we go review a restaurant. It was, no, really, it was a little nuts. Who am I missing on that list of people? I don't want to miss anybody there right now. So music, theater. I produced last year Jesus Christ Superstar up here and for summer stock. I produced the year before Hair. So it's not just about wine. Wine is my passion, but so is music, so is arts, so is theater, and number 2 is sports. I'm a sports guy. I ride my bike every night, 10 miles at least, to watch the sunset. And I, as you know, play a lot of tennis with your friend Harvey. I used to play with him. You can't play with him anymore. Sorry, we shouldn't talk about him on screen here right now.
Right.
Right.
All right. So tell us something, not that you haven't already, but tell us something that would surprise most people to know about you.
I'm a good dancer.
I know that. Wait. You have to tell. I want to know something that even I wouldn't know. So for viewers who don't know, At a big party, if Kevin and I are there and there's music playing, we always dance with each other because we like dancing with each other, right? And maybe it's because we always come with a partner who can't dance as well as we can dance together. It could be that.
We let our partners dance.
Yeah, they do a
And they're
terrible
still on
job.
the dance floor. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
You know, well, okay. People know this is not scripted, so I never know what you're going to ask, Karen. Well, so with what's going on in the world right now and our terrible situation, it's been a wake-up call for me. Last year, I was in 60 cities around the world, and I'm turning 70 this year. Maybe you didn't know that. Turning 70 this year. As a matter of fact, I'm writing an op-ed piece called "Turning 70 ... with a virus." Of course, in the first sentence I say, I'm not 70 yet, and no, I didn't have the virus, but it's changed my life. Totally different outlook. And the first, I saw you in Napa earlier this year. I mean, this running around. So this is news to everybody. I don't want to get on a plane again for the rest of my life. I honestly am done. I want to live up here in the country. I live in New Paltz, New York, in the Hudson Valley, birthplace, by the way, of American viticulture. I'll throw that in there, and winemaking. So I'm just going to stay where it started. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to build a log cabin in the woods. And Henry David Thoreau was one of my favorite, writers. So live off the land, and of course I keep the wine cellar.
And keep the wine cellar. All those kids' wines to keep you going.
Well, I still have a lot, too much wine, by the way. So this is what I've learned, that, I always put wines away. So now I'm drinking them. That was my New Year's resolution, was to drink any wine that was 20 years old and older. And I'm going to tell you the stats on that. It's 30% are past their prime. So I'm, as a wine person, and something that I do, I lost 30% of my wines because I didn't drink them on time.
Yeah.
But I've had some fantastic experiences as well. 70%.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, our complete interview with Kevin Zraly appears on winespeed.com's People to Know page. You will not want to miss it. Thank you, everyone. And Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Come up to the country. Come swimming. Thank you, Karen.